Hello, I'm Dr. John Clarke from the University College of Estate Management based here in Reading in the UK. At UCM, we deliver courses in the built environment and construction at foundation, undergraduate and postgraduate level, and we're happy to be presenting this in our centenary year. This presentation covers the design, development, production and use of a set of teaching and learning resources called Eco-Material Trumps, which brings gaming into the teaching and learning environment. UCM is committed to ensuring that our students are conversant in best and future practice to nurture sustainable built environments through our learning and teaching provision, making sustainability a central focus at organisational, departmental and individual levels through driving forward long-term and effective behavioural change and establishing UCM as a leader in the sustainability agenda through actively influencing industry and conducting research. As you can see, we have achieved a number of sustainability awards and certifications requiring quite rigorous auditing of our academic staff and curricula. I developed the idea when I was asked to teach undergraduate surveying students about the environmental impact of construction materials and wanted to get away from merely presenting the data, but getting the students to process the information in a more interactive way. The cards contain sustainability data for 44 common construction materials, enabling these to be compared, contrasted and discussed in the form of a card game format. I just want to give some background underlying the intention of the game and Education for Sustainable Development, or ESD generally, which is to increase understanding and promote more sustainable professional behaviour around climate change and the reduction of carbon emissions, to which our responses can be complex, as shown in this table. So here we can see that responses are strongest to threats that are visible, for example, but climate change is invisible. Our response is strongest to threats that are immediate. Climate change is drawn out. So please take a look at that, it's quite interesting. Understanding the impacts on a global, national, regional and local level is also critical to fully appreciate the value of the game. And here you can see UK climate change risks in terms of warmer, drier summers, increase in winter rainfall, decrease in summer rainfall and rise in sea and river levels. And obviously around the world these can be significantly more than that. In the UK, buildings account for around 48% of carbon emissions, which equates to 360 million tonnes of carbon dioxide. I always find this hard to visualise, so I like to show a hot air balloon, the volume of which represents just 1 tonne of CO2. So that's the equivalent of 360 million hot air balloons, and that's just from UK construction carbon emissions. These emissions can be broken down, and as buildings become more operationally energy efficient and therefore produce less carbon in use, the material element becomes more critical at design and construction stages when selecting and specifying construction materials. This is where the eco-material trumps really come into their own. The sustainability of materials are recognised throughout the industry to varying degrees, and for the BREEAM rating, an internationally recognised environmental standard, it is a significant issue with a high environmental weighting. It's not just about how and what materials are sourced, transported and used, but also how materials can be over-ordered and how they can end up as waste. Here are some quite alarming statistics. So in the UK alone, 420 million tonnes of materials are used per year, of which 120 million tonnes is waste, 35 million tonnes goes to landfill, and 20 million tonnes are actually unused materials, potentially from over-ordering. The waste hierarchy shows prevention of waste as the most favoured option and disposal as the least favoured option, and it has been shown that CO2 can be reduced by up to 30% through the careful selection of materials alone. I would now just like to cover some of the pedagogical background to using gamification or serious games for teaching and learning. Here is the learning pyramid, which essentially shows how more didactic or teaching by telling methods of teaching tend to result in lower student retention of knowledge, whereas more inductive or experiential learning by doing or active learning methods result in very high levels of knowledge retention. I would invite you to read this slide, which I think nicely sums up the value of experiential learning and education for sustainable development. Here is some of the theoretical background related to gamification, serious games, and experiential learning and active learning. You can look at this more closely as the recording will be available later on. This slide shows how motivation can be optimized in gameplay by balancing skill and difficulty to create a flow which both increase with experience of playing the game. Here are some of the pedagogical benefits of using the cards as a serious game. It enables the processing of complex sets of data. It brings together data from very disparate sources. It encourages interaction and discussion. It's a visual and tangible presentation of data. It's quite simple and easy to use, and a lot of people find it fun, and it encourages sustainable thinking. As I mentioned earlier, the data is rather dry when presented in its raw form. And here is the data presented in serious game form. The game cards visually present the material, in this case insulation materials, which enables the comparison of 6 sustainable features for different materials performing a similar function. Whereas these cards compare and contrast seemingly similar materials, plastics, for different uses. Here, different materials, fired clay bricks, rammed earth and steel reinforced concrete, can be compared and contrasted for a similar function, that is, the production of a wall. Some of the supplementary cards give additional information that need to be read prior to playing the game, such as how to play the game and definitions for the sustainability criteria, including units of measurement. These are embodied energy, global warming potential, landfill decomposition, recyclability, durability, and thermal conductivity. Understanding these definitions adds depth of knowledge and understanding to the game. There are also supplementary cards called material facts cards, which give further information about the environmental impact of key construction materials, which, if used beforehand, can add depth to playing the game, or can be the basis of follow-up activities to embed learning. Here is a word cloud showing the frequency of responses to a questionnaire. The question being, what 3 words come to mind having played the game? It is clear that enjoyment is a key element, along with gaining knowledge, participating, and being interested in the subject. I now invite you to play the game in groups of 5 or 6 people per pack. Please enjoy playing the game seriously, and please don't hesitate to contact me if you require any further packs, and I look forward to receiving your feedback.